Hey guys, coming in for the series premiere of Blindspot. As you guys know, it does premiere tomorrow night, but the premiere was already leaked online, so like I did Minority Report, I figured I'd watch the show, and I was looking forward to the show a lot more than Minority Report. It seemed like a very interesting premise, something I really haven't seen before. My biggest fear, though, is that the plot of the show seemed more like the plot of a movie than it did a TV series, and I really didn't know how it was going to work as a TV series. So I checked out the pilot, and I have to say, I overall really do like this show. I have a few problems with it here and there, but other than that, this could end up being a very interesting television series, definitely. I really do only have one problem with it, and I'll get into that. But let's get into this episode. A really great premiere overall, and one of my favorite parts of the premiere is by far the beginning. Just the way this episode started is so mysterious, and I loved it because it starts off with just this mysterious bag found by a cop on the streets of New York, and they don't know what this bag is, and the cop, is asking anyone if he sees, if they know who it belongs to, and nobody's responding, and since no one responded, the cop then clears the area and inspects the bag, and obviously they don't know what's in it. There could be a bomb in it, there could be a gun in it, there could be anything in it. They don't know what to do, so they send someone out to inspect it. He finds no radiation detected. He then does a manual inspection and feels for wires to see what they're dealing with, and as he's about to open, the bag seems like it starts to open itself, meaning someone is in there. He gets his gun ready, and out comes a naked woman with tattoos all over her, and she looks terrified, and he orders her to turn around and get on her knees with her hands behind her head, and she does as asked, and I thought that was a fantastic beginning because, we're as confused as she is. We don't know why she's here. We don't know where she's come from, why the hell she's in a bag. It just overall is very, very mysterious and very well done. So in rural Kentucky, a group of police go to approach a suspect's home, and there are two women inside chained up with a guy who's asking for money and tells them he wants them to behave. There's also a baby inside crying with the suspect, which the suspect doesn't like, and one of the women starts screaming for help, and the suspect falls from the floor into a trapdoor. The FBI then cuff him and take the woman and her baby to a hospital, and then we get our main character, Agent Kurt Weller. He is then called to go to New York because of the critical incident involving the mysterious Jane Doe that they just found. So we then meet the director of the FBI, Bethany Mayfair, who explains to Kurt that the woman is out of it and obviously drugged, with bruising and restraint marks on her wrists and ankles, and obviously something had to have happened to her. So she then introduces Kurt to Dr. Borden, who shows Kurt the evidence they found, and he says they will not believe it, and he tells them about an experimental drug called Zeta interacting protein, and it's being tested with PTSD sufferers, soldiers who are victims in combat. If it used sparingly, it can erase memories. And Bethany asks if he has found traces in the woman, and he says it's not traces. Her whole system is flooded, and he's never seen anything like it. He says it has created a chemically induced state of permanent amnesia, and she can't remember who she is or where she came from, and all of her memories are just gone completely. So this is obviously something they've never really dealt with before, and something that I don't think I've ever heard of before. I mean, I think if something like this were to happen, you'd see it on all the news stations. I mean, it could be really interesting. And especially if this is something that's possible, I really feel something like this could happen. And Kurt asks how he's involved, and Bethany shows him the woman and asks if he recognized her, and he says he's never seen her before in his life, despite that she has a tattoo of his name along with saying he's associated with the FBI on her back. So clearly, the person that did this to her knows Kurt, knows why he's there, and we don't know why. So Kurt talks to all the police and asks who Jane Doe is and why she was dropped in Times Square for them to find her, and why his name is tattooed on her back. And he then assigns Tasha Zapata and Edgar Reed the job of finding out if anyone he put away got out of prison recently. He doesn't recall any ammos, but he could be missing something. And he then tells them, as for Jane Doe, they're going to try to squeeze something out of her. So Borden says that her narrative memory has been obliterated, but her procedural memory is still intact. She can walk, talk, understand the world, and basically can do anything someone can teach themselves to do, but she doesn't recall any memories of things that have happened in her life. And, she basically, I like what he says here. He says specifics are cloudy. For instance, she knows what music is, but doesn't remember the beats or how the song goes. And Bethany asks if she'll ever get her memory back, and he says they never had a case like this before, And by they, he means all of medical science, so it's possible that something could trigger a memory, but there's no way to know for sure. So they really don't know what's going to happen here at this point. So they then take Jane to an interrogation room, and Kurt says that this woman did not just come out of thin air. He doesn't think someone carried the bag into Times Square. He thinks it just came from a van, and he tells Zapata to get all of Times Square's CCTV footage and find out how Jane got there. And he tells Patterson to get Jane Doe printed, photographed, and scanned. And if there's a missing persons database out there, she is to run the DNA through codes. He knows it won't give them anything quickly to full genealogy study, but she is to do it all, and Jane is then given a blood test and given many tests, and Patterson asks if it hurts, and Jane says that all of her tattoos are a little swollen, and she says they're going to need to image all of her tattoos, which they do, and Zapata then says that 78% of the cameras in Times Square are either out of commission, out of position, or out of focus, but she did get footage of a van dropping off the bag. So she asks Kurt if he ever gets tired of being right, and he says no. He asks if she got the plates, and she said she didn't, but she followed it through the CCTV grid. It enters a camera's dead zone across town and never comes out. So Kurt then goes into an elevator as Jane is questioned by police, and she doesn't know the answer to any of these questions. Obviously, she can't remember anything. I mean, they ask her things like who the president is, who she is, who her mother is. She doesn't remember any of these. And Patterson says all of Jane's tattoos are new by a few weeks, and Bethany asks why they would do that, and Kurt says it's a treasure map. There's no X that marks the spot, there's hidden letters and random numbers, and it's all a puzzle. So obviously the person that did this wants them to find out, gradually find out why. So I kind of really like seeing that. It kind of shows that this is going to work as a TV show, because every week they're probably going to solve another piece of the puzzle. That's how it's going to be. So the first piece is his name on her back, and Jane continues being questioned, and she says she has the same answer to every question every time. She doesn't know. She doesn't know what's going on or what's happening, and she doesn't know how else to tell him that. She says she doesn't even know her name, and yet lets them scan and poke her and probe her, and she says she's done. She wants to speak to someone in charge, and already you could tell that this actress, that's playing Jane Doe, is fantastic in her role. I mean, she just in this first episode has so many great scenes, and this is only one of them. So she then meets with Kurt, and this is when the episode really gets going. He goes to talk to her, and he explains he's a lead agent on her case, and she asks if he knows what's going on or who she is, and he says that they don't know anything yet, and Bethany watches as she tells him that they don't really know anything, and he says there was no match to her prints or DNA. They can't find her in any of their databases, and he asks if she recognizes him. She says why she would when she doesn't even recognize herself, and he says Borden believes if she encounters familiar stimuli that she will remember. So she asks why he would be familiar, and he explains that his name is tattooed on her back, and he says he doesn't know who she is, but maybe somehow she knew him, and she says she doesn't understand this. He says he knows it's overwhelming, but to please try and something may come back. She touches his hand and face. It still means nothing to her, though. She asks what happens. Now he says they will release a clean photograph of her to the media. Someone will know her. And she says that's not what she means. She meant what happens right now. She has nowhere to go. So he decides to take her to a safe house, which is probably a smart thing to do. Take her to a safe house just that way. No one will find her and she won't be questioned by anyone. Because obviously, when there's a Jane Doe, people are going to want to question her. They're going to want to interview her. They're going to know who she is. They're going to want to know this stuff. So I thought it was smart that Kurt did that. So he gives her a quick tour, and she asks if there are any guys outside to keep people out or leave her in, and he says they are there to keep her safe until they get to the bottom of this. He leaves her and says if there's any food she likes to tell the security guys, and they will try to get it to her. So she says she doesn't know what she likes. He says he will get her a bunch of menus so she can choose, and he then leaves, and he sits at home and looks at the photos taken of her. While she looks at all the tattoos on her, she's breaking down, she's crying, because obviously she doesn't know where any of these came from. She doesn't know who put these on her, and she doesn't even know what any of these mean, so she's obviously freaking out. So the next day, she tells Borden that she didn't even dream last night, and she was hoping that someone did this, and this was probably my favorite scenes of the episode. What we get here, I think, was a fantastic scene. And Borden says he got her a coffee and a tea and asks what she prefers. She can't decide, so he tells her to try both. And I don't know what it was about the scene, but something about it I just loved. So she tries both, and she picks the coffee, and he tells her she has figured out that she is a coffee person, which proved that she's not helpless. Gradually, things will start to come back to her. And he says, we are defined by our choices. She doesn't remember hers, so keep trying new things and see what she remembers, and the more choices she makes, the less helpless she'll feel. And that's probably the best way to do it, because obviously she knows what she likes and what she dislikes. She doesn't know right now, but gradually as she starts to pick things, she'll know, I like this, I don't like that. And he says even if her memory never comes back, she can still find herself. And I mean, that pretty much is true. When we as humans remember stuff, remember it as, I like this, I don't like this. And I think it's true, really, what Borden is saying there. I thought that was definitely very interesting. So we then see Kurt, Patterson, and Bethany investigate the tattoos all over Jane's body, and Zapata then comes out with Jane, who looks at all the tattoos and starts to recall something. She sees a tattoo in Chinese, and she then starts speaking Chinese. Now, how she knows Chinese, we don't know, but for whatever reason, she knows Chinese. And she says it's an address and a date, and today's date, Kurt shows this to everyone. He asks Jane if it says the time, and she says it's just an address and today's date, and the address is 399 White Street, apartment 7 in Chinatown. And Zapata says that Chao Zhang lives there. He's a transportation engineer, and he's a Chinese national, and he's been there 3 years. So Reed, Zapata, and Kurt then head out, and he tells Jane to stay put. She says she wants to come with them. She says the clue on her body are today's date and the language she speaks, and he doesn't, and he says that's not her call. She says might not just be a messenger. What if she's supposed to see? Maybe she'll remember something, and maybe he knows her. And I do agree with that. That probably is what could happen, is that she could find someone that knows her. And Jane asks if she's under arrest. Kurt says she's not. Bethany says they will all feel a lot more comfortable if she stay in protected custody. And she says she would feel a lot more comfortable if she could ask this guy why his address is stamped on her head. So unless he's detaining her, she's going. And Bethany tells Kurt to take her. So he tells her to stay in the car, and she says that wasn't the deal. He says he doesn't care. He's not going to take her upstairs until everything's secure. And he tells Reed to keep an eye on her and goes with Zapata to find Chao's address. So he knocks on the apartment door, and Chao is not there. And Kurt asks if anyone else is in there. And this guy that's obviously his roommate is freaking out. He's freaking out in Chinese, and Zapata tries to get him to calm down. Kurt asks if he lives there, but he continues to speak in Chinese, which Kurt does not understand. And Zapata then says he needs to get Jane. He gets her out of the car and tells her to come with him. And Reed asks if he can come too, or does he want to roll the window down for him. Reed seems like he's going to be a very fun character, so I really like him so far. Jane then translates what the Chinese man is saying. He says he just moved in last week. He hasn't seen Chao since yesterday. He wants to apologize about his visa, and Kurt asks if that's Chao's room, and he says yes, and if she recognizes anything in the room, and that is familiar. And she sees a picture and seems to recall something, but says no. So clearly there's something she remembers that she does not want to tell them for whatever reason. Maybe because she doesn't know if it's real, if she's freaking out. I mean, again, this is all new to her. So her and Chao's roommate go in the hallway. Kurt then breaks the door down, and him and Reed go into the room. They find a ton of tools to cook meth, so clearly this guy cooks meth, and Kurt tells Zapata to break into the computer. She breaks into it and asks if they smell the rotten eggs as well as mold rot, and a couple mystery smells he's trying not to identify. He then finds sawdust, and the rotten egg is sulfur linked with explosives. So he doesn't cook meth, he cooks explosives. And Chao's roommate then tells Jane the super and his wife are home and he's a bad man. And Patterson then shows Bethany another tattoo they found. It's in Latin, and it says, in God and country, and it's a Navy SEAL tattoo. So gradually we're starting to find out more information about Jane, if you can't tell. So the super is being his wife, and Jane goes into a room, tells the woman to come with her. The super screams at her to go away. Patterson says there's never been a female Navy SEAL, and Bethany says they wouldn't advertise it if there were, and she says if she was Navy, she'd be in their database, and Jane says she just wants to talk about this, but the super goes for her. She punches him out, beats up both men, and you can tell that she has this incredible strength, and you don't know why, and I think that definitely was very interesting. So Zapata gets into the computer, and she says the computer's been almost completely wiped, and there's just an upload button and time delay. So they look at the computer, and there's a video of Chao speaking in Chinese, and Kurt goes to get Jane, who's still being the man. He tells her to stop and stand there. He asks what happened, and she tells him what happened. He says he told her to stay upstairs. She says she wanted to help them, she wanted to help them, basically, and he says that they could have handled this. He tells her they found something upstairs and they need her, and she translates what Chow is saying, and he's upset. Basically, Chow's upset about the treatment that Americans have towards Chinese, and he plans on basically getting revenge because of it. So Kurt says he's speaking in past tense, and Zapata then says it was uploaded 3 hours ago, and Reed asks what he plans on using the explosives for, and Kurt says they have 3.5 hours to find him and stop him. So Kurt says the video they found said they're targeting a politician, the mother of exiles, so he's thinking they're talking about Judith Moore, who's the only female politician in New York. So Bethany says she's pro-immigration and pro-Chinese, so it all adds up. So that's what they think is going on here. So Kurt says they have to get everyone that speaks Chinese to look for it. He wants all eyes on the emails. But Bethany says the translators are struggling with it. It's a very dialect known as Wenzhou, and it's known as the devil's language. So Jane says she can translate. She wants to stop this guy just as much, and he does. He assigns her the job. So he tells Patterson to turn Chow's phone back on and get his position. She says he's in Brooklyn, in Livingston, headed west, and they go to a location. I'm going to turn the light on, guys, because it's getting dark in here. But basically, Jane asks how she knows all of this, the Chinese and the fighting, and he says a lot of people know martial arts, which is true, they do, but what he just saw, you don't find at the local dojo. There clearly is more going on with her than just she knows martial arts. It's a much more advanced kind of martial arts. There's a lot more to it. So Kurt says to keep their eyes peeled. They look around for Chow, and Jane spots him because he's wearing the same jacket in the picture from his apartment. So Kurt tells Reed to pull over, and he tells Zapata to keep eyes on Jane. However, when they get in there, they at first spot Chow, but what happens is he gets a text that says he's being followed, and we don't know who this is from. We don't really know why he's there. And Kurt basically decides to rip away some of the C4, and Reed says that's insane, and he throws the bomb, but unfortunately when this happens, Chow gets away, and basically he tried to blow him up, and then he gets away. So Jane, basically, they regroup with Zapata and Jane says she read Chow's emails and might have found why Chow was doing this. He just found out his mother was killed in the Chinese prison camp, and him and his sister have been begging the U.S. government for years to get released, and she didn't know, and she didn't. She's the mother of all exiles. His mother is not, it's not the politician, it's his mother. So Kurt realizes that Chow plans on blowing up the Statue of Liberty, so that's basically, they're dealing with something much bigger here. So Kurt tells Bethany that they're almost at Battery Park. They need to get a bullet to get out to Liberty Island. She says the mayor had an event out there today, but NYPD pulled him to deal with the subway explosion. And Zapata says that explains a political reference in Chow's video, and Reed says that's good for them. Security should be airtight. So Kurt says the explosives won't set off a metal detector, but, Chow should still be able to smuggle a detonator in an iPhone or a belt buckle, and that's true. I mean, it's not hard to get a detonator. So Kurt says they have a solid hit start, and she tells him how Jane might have been a Navy SEAL, and Kurt says that would explain a few things, and obviously he doesn't tell Jane about this because he doesn't want to scare her. So they pull up to a location, and Jane gets out. She says she's coming with him. He tells her no, she's not, but she is to stay in the car, and she says she saw the map on Zapata's tablet. Liberty Island is 14 acres, and he has 3 agents, and he needs another set of eyes, and she can't let that man kill a bunch of innocent people. So basically, she has to go with him. So she goes with him, and he gives her a bulletproof vest and tells her to stay by his side, and he tells Zapata to search the crowd, and Reed will get perimeter. He takes the statue, and Jane's with him. They get into the statue, and find what looks like a park ranger. He says he's with the FBI, but it's actually Chow in disguise. He starts shooting, he then starts basically shooting at Jane and runs up the stairwell, and she's shot in the leg, and Kurt tries to help her, but she tells him she's okay. She tells him to go get him. He reports to Bethany that Chow is dressed as a park ranger, and he goes up the stairs and is tackled by Chow. They get into a fight, and Jane shoots a bullet into the air, and Chow tells her to drop the gun or he kills Kurt. And he says if he kills him, that Jane will have to kill him. He says there's no weight on his mother, and he says there's no going back now. She shoots at Chow and starts to recall a memory of herself. It's a memory of herself shooting at targets, and she tells Kurt that she actually remembers something. And this was just an incredible scene. And basically, Kurt tells Bethany that there's no doubt in his mind that Jane's special forces or intelligence trained the skill set is way too specialized, high-level language abilities, hand-to-hand proficiency off the charts. She's a professional. She saved his life today, and Reed then tells her about the first memory that she recalled, and Bethany asks who she is, and Kurt says he doesn't know yet, but he does know that one of her tattoos, basically one of her tattoos triggered her first memory, and basically it helps save the lives of 100 people, and basically that she would be a good resource for them. She might be the most important resource they've ever had, and she risks losing her letting her out on the field today. But Bethany says that this actually was to her advantage because they're one step closer to finding out who she is, and he still doesn't understand why, if their unknown subject is a good guy who wanted them to stop Chow, why not call it in? I understand that. Why not call it in? Why use Jane? What is this guy's goal here? What does he want to do, and who's the one that's doing this? So Bethany says it's as big a mystery as Jane Doe. They have no idea where it will lead, and it's just the beginning. And she tells them to go home, and they will regroup tomorrow. So she then looks at a file. And basically, this was really interesting because it looks like Bethany is actually being charged for murder and embezzlement in a file, and the number of the file is also tattooed on Jane's back. So clearly the person that knows Kurt also knows Bethany. So that I thought was definitely very interesting. So Kurt then goes to visit Jane in the safe house, and she asks if Chow said anything, and he says no, he just got out of surgery, so they will question him tomorrow. He asks how she's feeling. She says physically she's okay. Her arm's a little banged up, but they said she should be fine. Excuse me, that was a hiccup. However, emotionally, she doesn't know, and she asks how he knew she can make that shot, and he said he didn't know. He took a chance on her, and she says none of this feels real. He tells her she's going to be okay, and she says she doesn't know what that feels like, and he notices something on her back, but that startles him. He doesn't know what it is, but there's something on her back that it startles him, and we don't know what it is either. So he thinks about what he saw. Jane looks at the tattoos on her back closely, and this is where I feel the episode should end, but it doesn't end here. What we get next, I feel, is just a little bit too much information for this episode, because Chow's then in the hospital, and Jane's trainer is the doctor. Now, we knew this guy was following her because we saw him before, and Chow says everything went the way it was supposed to. He says no, he was supposed to die, him for his sister, that was the deal. He says he won't tell anyone, he swears. He is then killed, and this was the part where I got kind of upset, because we see that Jane's trainer is the one that gave her the Zeta drug and told her that once he gives her the drug, everything she knows will cease to exist, and she says she knows, but it's her only choice. So this I felt was a bit too much information, because now we already know part of what happened, that he was the one that gave her the drug, and I feel that they just revealed this a little too early. And it's not that it was bad. It's not like the Whispers, where I felt they should have saved this, way further down. But I felt like they were going to reveal things way too early. Now, there could be a lot more to this story than we know. It might actually be an advantage that they revealed this early, but that really is my only problem with this pilot. Overall, guys, I thought this was a pretty solid first episode. I really like the cast here. That's something I think that this show had that Minority Report didn't. If you guys are wondering, why didn't you like Minority Report and not this? This show actually has really good acting and really compelling characters. Within a few minutes, I already knew Jamie Alexander was a great actress. She is fantastic as Jane Doe. She is confused as she is. Her finding out stuff about herself is very compelling, and I could definitely see her being a very, very good actress, and she definitely is the big star on the show, definitely. She is very, very good. Everyone else is really good, though, too. I really like Sullivan Stapleton as Kurt, who basically is just trying to find the right thing to do. He doesn't know what to do about her. He's just as confused as we are. I think he does a very good job, and I can't wait to see how his character is. My only real thing about Kurt Wallow is I'd like to find out a bit more about him, which I'm fine that we didn't find out too much in this episode, but I feel like he has a bit more going on with him than we think, and that I think is definitely going to be very interesting. This seems like one of those shows where we're constantly going to second-guess ourselves. We're going to think something, but something else is going on. There's clearly something else going on with Jane Doe, and we just don't know what it is yet. Audrey Esparta as Tasha Zapata. Not too much with Zapata in this episode. We know that she's this computer hacker and she's really good with that, but other than that, we didn't really get too much with her. Neither did we get with Rob Brown as Reed. He seems like he's going to be very funny, but not much else with him. Now, I'm very interested in the character of Bethany Mayfair, though, because clearly she either is being charged with embezzlement or murder or something. Something is going on with her, and we don't know what it is, but Marion Jean Baptiste is great in this role. I also really like Uckwell Roach as Dr. Borden and Ashley Johnson as Patterson. I think the entire cast and the ensemble overall is great, and they're probably one of the best ensembles I've seen of the fall TV shows, of the fall TV shows I've seen so far this year. Granted, I've only seen a few, but I feel like they're going to be one of the best ensembles of all the fall TV shows I watch because they're all really great. The creators of this show are actually the creators of, well, actually the producer of the show is the producer of The Flash and Arrow, which is why I think the mystery is so good on the show. He is used to doing these procedural sort of shows before. And it's very much like The Flash and Arrow. You know, you have a compelling, you know, recurring storyline, but you also have crimes that you have to solve every episode. So I think that's really interesting. What I like about this, that it's not a superhero show. So you can't say it's something we've seen before because I don't think we've seen something where someone has tattoos on their back and they're going to be solving the mystery through the tattoos. That is going to be very interesting, and we're going to find out more about Jane's background. So that I really like as well. The action in the show is actually very thrilling. I was surprised by how good the effects were in the show. I mean, they were very thrilling. The scene where they went to Chow's house and things like that, that's very interesting. I can't wait to see how that turns out because that was very, very intense. And it seems like Chow's now dead, so clearly there's something going on with Chow as well, and we don't know what that is all about. The score, I think, is very good to this show as well, and I think the tone is also very, very well executed. If I had one other problem with this show, I'm not that huge of a fan of Kurt constantly being like, oh, no, don't go with us in this mission. But then I guess it makes sense because he wants to keep her safe, and he wants to use her as a good asset for the FBI and, you know, use her to their advantage. I can understand that. But it just got kind of annoying at points when he did that. It wasn't too much that happened, but it got a bit annoying at times. But overall, guys, I really, really like this show. I mean, I'm surprised by how much I like this show. My only complaint, like I said, is that I am worried that they're going to reveal too much too soon. It just seemed like the very end, they could have saved that for maybe episode 2 or episode 3. The flashback, okay, if they do that one flashback, fine. I just hope this isn't like The Whispers, where they reveal too much too soon, and then focus on a plot point I just don't care about. I hope that doesn't happen with this show. Some people have said they might go the conventional route of having Jane and Kurt being in a relationship. If they do it, I want them to do it gradually. I don't want this to be something where suddenly they're just in a relationship. I don't want it to happen this season. If they do it, I think it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting if they do that. But my biggest thing with that is that I hope they do this gradually. They don't try to just they don't randomly just get together. You know, they don't do it this season. Because I don't think you should do that this season, definitely. I do really think this show is going to get picked up, though. I do think it's going to get some views. And I encourage you guys, check out this show. It's a very, very good show so far. You know, even though I have those few problems with it, I overall really do enjoy the show a lot more than I thought I was going to. It really seemed like it wasn't going to be that good, but it actually is very good. And I want to tell you guys that, yes, it is a very good show. I want you guys to check it out, and I honestly would recommend it to you guys. I think it's a very good show, and you should definitely give it a chance because I really like it so far. But that's basically my review of the first episode of Blindspot. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. What do you think is going on with Jane Doe? There's clearly more going on with her. Also, what's going on with Bethany? You know, why is she being charged of embezzlement and murder? What happened to her as well? Do you think they're revealing too much in this show? I don't think they're revealing too much, but it just seems like there are a few things they could have kept for later episodes. But that's basically my review. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for my Emmy live stream, which I can't wait for. I think you guys are really going to love what I have for that, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.